Welcome again to Retail Technology Show 2024. We're super excited to be here again. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people here. I don't know if it's me, but it just feels busier than ever before. I'm joined by Natalie Berg, who is a guru in the retail space. I don't think there's anyone who knows more about retail than this lady here. Does it seem busier to you this year?
It feels very busy this year. I mean, everyone I've spoken to has said the same thing. It's everywhere you go, and you don't have to go far to bump into, a former colleague or a client or a friend. My co-author is actually hosting one of the stages. And I think that's what's so great about the Retail Technology Show is that it's just great to have the industry collectively come together, share insights, network, and learn for a couple of days and take time out from the day job because we are in a period of so much change, such transformation, and we all have a lot to learn from each other.
We got a lot to talk about, a lot of change. Where do we begin? What's the biggest change that you're seeing right now?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question, Liesl. I mean, everywhere you look, there's change, and I think that's what, as an analyst, is so exciting about retail. Is just if you look at how retailers are transforming their stores, utilizing technology to bring the physical store into the 21st century. We've seen the move towards frictionless checkout and this idea that, getting customers in and out of the store as quickly as possible, but also utilizing technology to offer more personalized experiences. And I think with the advent of AI, which I'm sure is something we'll touch on, that's just going to get better and better for the customer. So there's absolutely so much to talk about. And also the other thing that I'm really excited about is to see how online shopping evolves in the future, because at the moment, online shopping is great. It's all about convenience. It's all about access to anything you want. As customers, we're absolutely spoiled for choice. But it's still pretty transactional. It's still very one-dimensional. And I think when we look to the future, I think the next big thing in retail is going to be taking those e-commerce experiences and making them more immersive, more lifelike. Basically, what we've seen within physical retail becoming digitized, we're now going to see with digital retail becoming more physical.
That's interesting. I'll just jump in on that point. Do you think then augmented reality could play a part in that immersive experience?
Absolutely. Augmented reality, I think, probably doesn't get enough credit. I think it really does a fantastic job of bridging the gap between physical and digital commerce. We're seeing it within beauty, with things like virtual try-ons. Also within home, if you want to imagine what a sofa might look like in your living room, augmented reality is a fantastic technology for that use case. But it's when I say, the future of digital commerce is immersive, everyone automatically thinks the metaverse, or they think, Apple Vision Pro headsets and being able to pull a product off a screen and see a 3D image in front of you. I think that definitely is the direction of travel, and I think it's really exciting how retailers can utilize things like virtual showrooms, and these things will never replace the physical store, but I think they'll be the next best thing. So I think for retailers, it's about thinking outside the box, thinking about how you can engage with your customers in that kind of setting. And if you're an outdoor retailer, you're going to meet your customer on a mountain, right? You're going to create that immersive experience. But it's not just that. It's also things like, as you say, augmented reality. It's live shopping. It's social commerce. It's virtual shopping consultations. Anything that kind of bridges that gap between physical and digital is going to be a win.
So let's talk about payments in terms of choice. There was an interesting point made, I think, by WorldPay, a spokesperson from WorldPay, who talked about this idea that there will be levels of choice at the point of sale, but actually the merchant needs to tailor their payment according to the consumer, which is quite interesting. So this idea that you can't possibly cater for everybody, because that's potentially impossible in the future with this plethora of choice. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. And are we moving to almost segmentation of payments within certain brands?
It's a really good point, and it came up a couple of times in the earlier panels. And I think, as with anything, too much choice can actually be a bad thing. It can be overwhelming, And it can ultimately lead to decision fatigue, or in the case of e-commerce, it could lead to cart abandonment if you're overwhelmed by all that choice. So I think it is, as with all things in retail, it is about knowing your customer, utilizing data, really getting a very clear understanding of who your customer is, which payment options they're using, what they want, how do you create that frictionless experience. But part of creating that frictionless experience is about offering the right service or the right products at the right time.
And we're still seeing an explosion of digital, right? I mean, digital wallets are just skyrocketing. Faster, I think the report that we did last year was a suggestion that they were going to overtake contactless payments by 2030. But we're already seeing that happen now, according to research that we carried out this year. So they're going faster than even we thought was possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting area to watch. And I think with all of these advancements in technology, there are going to be some retailers that are, embracing it, embracing the change, adapting, and then others, sadly, that will be laggards. But I think the risk of inaction with all of these advancements is too great, because technology just keeps improving, keeps getting better for the customer. One thing I'm really excited about is how we're moving towards greater personalization, hyper personalization, and we're doing, the ability to do that in real time to reach customers when they're at the shelf, at the point of sale. That is really powerful, and especially if you are a physical retailer, you've got to be thinking about how can you tailor your offer, tailor your products, tailor the overall service and experience for your customers in a way that's relevant and frictionless as well.
Are you seeing any particular retailer doing well in that regard?
I'm going to struggle to think of one off the top of my head now, aren't I?
Well, I guess who's winning? Like, who do you think is winning the race right now for capturing consumers in retail?
I think it's a journey, and I think there are certainly some retailers further ahead than others, but I think that the physical retailers that have all physical retailers now play in the online space in some, just to a certain degree, whether or not you're fully transactional, or whether you're reaching customers through social media, for example. If you look at the likes of Aldi or Lidl or Primark. Although just this week we heard that Primark is rolling out click and collect to all of their stores. So I think even for those retailers that have kind of resisted the e-commerce calling, even they're recognizing, actually, we can't ignore it. We've got to keep moving. We've got to keep adapting to meet customer needs. So it's difficult to call out a specific retailer, but I think the risk of not doing these things is too great. It's too competitive of a climate to stand still.
I mean, a brand that I suppose springs to my mind is Marks and Spencer. So Marks and Spencer's is pretty traditional, historic brand in the UK. Was always had that kind of slightly older impression, clientele perhaps older, but they've really reinvented themselves and become much more modernized as an outlet. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. And I think their CEO, Stuart Macon, put it so nicely in a recent statement. He said that they are, the reason for their success, their turnaround, is because they're positively dissatisfied. And I absolutely love that phrase. I think that's a mentality that all retailers need to adopt. We look to the likes of Amazon and the big disruptors. And, I've spent a lot of time researching and talking about Amazon. And the way that I sum up their success is very similar to what Stuart said. It's this relentless dissatisfaction with the status quo. That's what really sets them apart. And I think more and more high street retailers, especially super tankers like M&S, have really, done a really fantastic job of adopting this mentality, not being afraid to fail fast, trying new ideas, iterating and doing it all in real time, knowing it's not going to be perfect, but and knowing that you are going to alienate some customers as well. I mean, I think it's quite brave of these big retailers, especially those that play in the middle market that are catering to a wide spectrum of customers, actually getting a little bit bolder and saying, actually, this is who we are, this is what our brand stands for, and these are the customers we're going to target. So I think that's the way forward.
That's an interesting point. What springs to my mind there is, does that then present challenges for the smaller merchants? Great for, enterprise, but the smaller mid-market retailers are really potentially going to struggle with that. And what we could be looking at is actually, a tiered retail world where maybe those larger retailers offer a better experience to their customers versus the smaller ones.
I'm not sure I'd agree with that, because I think with the democratization of technology, it's really easy for even a small independent high street retailer to get online, and I think it is those same customers who are shopping across different brands and recognizing and probably wanting to support their local high streets. But I don't know. I think that I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that I think it's important that those smaller retailers are responding to those customer demands, because they're the same customer demands. As we said in one of our panels earlier, the majority of sales still take place in a physical store globally, but most of those sales are digitally influenced. And so you can't ignore digital. It's not everything. Customers still want different things when they come into a physical store. We talked a lot about the experience, and being able to marry technology with the human touch, in my opinion, is really powerful. And I think from a retail perspective, that's what will really separate the winners from the losers going forward.
Are you still seeing that unification of browsing online, purchasing online, and going in store and making that purchase? Are we still seeing that unified commerce that we talked about last year?
Shoppers want to shop on their terms, right? I mean, when that's just it. As consumers, it's just shopping. And retailers have to work so hard behind the scenes to ensure that everything functions as it should. Everything's connected in real time. We've talked a lot about omni-channel for so long now. And that's, this idea that retailers have a presence across all different channels, or to your point, the channels that are most relevant for their customers. But now we're moving towards unified commerce, and this is the idea that everything is connected in real time. And I think we think about the customer experience, it's gotten so good, hasn't it? As customers today, we are so spoiled, and we're in the driving seat. Retailers have to roll out the red carpet for us. One of the trends that I keep talking about is this democratization of white glove service. It's this idea that retailers really have to continuously be looking at how to elevate the customer experience, continuously find ways to go beyond, to surprise and delight us, and especially in a physical retail setting. So I think it's a great time to be a customer. It's a little bit trickier if you're a retailer.
So do you not, I'm going to be controversial here, but do you not think that technology is moving too fast for us human beings to keep up?
I think some aspects of technology certainly are. AI has been around forever. We talk about AI as if it's this shiny new thing. What is shiny and new is generative AI. I heard the MD of Amazon, John Baumfree, compare it to the internet. He said it's going to be as transformative as the internet. And I'd agree with that. I think generative AI is really going to revolutionize the way that we shop, and it's going to make retailers smarter, leaner, more efficient, and generally more effective in everything that they do.
So paint a picture of what that could look like in, I don't know, how many years? 5 years' time? Maybe not even, but paint a picture of that experience.
From a customer point of view, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint because it's happening across the board. So if you take a very simple example, it's not a fun, shiny example, but something that's happening right here, right now, which again, this is why generative AI is so transformative, because it is solving genuine pain points that exist today. Again, to go back to my example of Amazon, they are sifting through thousands of customer reviews, and they're using generative AI to pull out and surface the most important information within those reviews. So you'll get a condensed summary of those product reviews. And I just think that's a great, really quick win. It's low-hanging fruit. It's a great way for the customer to make a more informed decision in an online setting. So that's happening now. That's not the most exciting thing, but it's, again, solving a pain point. And I think when we think to the future about how AI is going to power more personalized experiences, things like virtual try-ons. I know there's a vendor here today where I was playing around with their app where you can you can upload a photo of yourself and then you basically like see what you look like in different outfits. So I was just scrolling on the John Lewis rental site and I thought what was so interesting about that was I was scrolling through and saving things that I would have never picked up off the rack. So I think, maybe making us a little bit more adventurous and again, augmented reality is doing that now to a certain degree. But I think the idea of a personal AI, personal shopping assistant is really cool. And that, in the future, we probably won't just Google when we need a little black dress because you get 40,000 results. I think in the future, if you tell your AI assistant that you have a work trip, you're going to London for the retail technology show, it will present you with some options. It'll give you an update on the weather, or maybe want to book some meetings in for you for with anyone else that's going. So it'll just be so much more comprehensive.
And you can pay the AI.
What's that?
You can pay the AI assistant.
Can you pay?
Once you've found your dress, you can then pay the AI assistant.
To do Yeah. I mean,
and they will pick the right way or the best way for you to make that payment.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think there's so much happening. And to your point about is technology moving too quickly, I think, consumers want different things as well. And I think we talked earlier about whether we'll ever get to a cashless society. And an important point was made around not forgetting the tech-averse demographic. You've got to bring people with you on the journey.
It's so true. It's just another choice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about loyalty. So your thoughts on loyalty. Loyalty very much alive, feels, certainly at this show this year. Mm-hmm. How do you see that evolving?
I'm going to be controversial now and say that I don't think loyalty is very much alive because I think shoppers today are incredibly promiscuous. I think what we've seen in recent years with the proliferation of choice and in terms of if you look at grocery retail, for example, new channels that have popped up, quick commerce, for example. We've seen the discount retailers like Aldi and Lidl move into more convenient locations, so they become more of a credible threat to the big supermarkets. I just think there's so many different ways to shop, and the move towards digitizing loyalty schemes and the rise of member pricing that we've seen, which has been somewhat controversial. I think that has made us a little bit less loyal. I think we've always been promiscuous. I think we've always been, looking for the best deal. But certainly within food retail, there has been this big shift away from a big weekly food trip, and instead what we're doing is we're shopping more frequently. I'm actually chairing a stage here at the Retail Technology Show tomorrow, and I'm going to hear from the co-op who are going to talk to these trends and these consumer shifts around more fragmented purchases. So I guess loyalty is a big thing in non-food retail. Yes, I think we're becoming even more loyal. I guess I think there is a distinction between grocery and non-grocery, but increasingly
Do you think there's a value in it to the consumer? I'm just kind of, imagine if you could receive rewards offers that were way more tailored to your needs. Do you see that having a value to the receiver of that? Would they pay to have that, white glove receivership of rewards and offers?
Yeah, and that's very much the direction of travel across all retail, food and non-food. I think that, again, the technology exists today where retailers can reach their customers with real-time personalized offers. And I think it's your own research that has showed that actually consumers want this. Consumers are open to this. If it's relevant, if it's meaningful to them, then it's a win-win. So I think, again, it's one of those great examples of how technology can really elevate the customer experience.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how much they would pay to receive, tailored rewards and offers. I'm just not sure about that.
Why do they have to pay?
Well,
can it be bundled as part of a loyalty program?
It could be. It could be.
Yeah, that's how I see it moving. We're certainly seeing that within the food retailers. And that goes back to my point around member pricing. And it's funny with dynamic pricing, that's, again, one of those somewhat controversial terms. I mean, I think we're accepting of that in travel and not hospitality, within the travel sector, and hotels and airlines. Not so much in retail, and I'm not sure why that divide exists and whether that might change in the future. But certainly the move towards personalized offers and promotions is the way forward.
Really interesting. Okay, so before we wrap up, you mentioned that you're here tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, so I am chairing the sustainability and supply chain stage. You're going to be hearing from some big disruptors like Uber. We have a fireside chat with Harrods and with Co-op. And we're also going to be hearing from the founder of Nobody's Child as well. So we're going to be talking about all things last mile and fulfillment. So another fun day at the Retail Tech Show.
It's really exciting. Natalie, thank you so much for your time. I mean, retail is I think, probably evolving faster than any other vertical right now, right?
Absolutely.
You had to look in a crystal ball. What would the future be right now?
The future,
it's alive.
It's alive and kicking. I think one thing I'd say, and I speak to a lot of retail CEOs at these kinds of events and for my podcast, and I think the one thing that keeps cropping up, and something I've been hearing at conferences, is two things. One, the fundamentals of retailing haven't changed. Mm-hmm. So we still want value, we still want service, we still want quality, and technology, we want convenience as well, can't forget that. And technology is just there to
and security.
We want security. Security is a non-negotiable. But I think it's important that we don't take your eye off the ball and lose focus on that, because there's so much shiny new tech out there. It's important that technology is there to elevate the customer experience, to make you more efficient, to help things run better, not tech for tech's sake. So it's really about, again, starting with the customer and then working backwards. And above all, what I keep hearing from these retail CEOs is the importance of having a focus, having a purpose, knowing what your brand stands for, knowing who your customers are, what they want. Don't try to be all things to all people. I think I heard it at Retail Week Live, retail CEO saying, don't try to do you can't do 1,000 things brilliantly. You've got to really hone in on your strengths and then execute really well.
Amazing advice. Thanks, Natalie. Always a delight to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day tomorrow.
Thank you, Liesl.
With that, back to you. Thanks.